well. There we go. We're recording. Perfect. So good afternoon. Let me give you a little bit of an update, and then a little bit later, Melissa will turn on the chat so you can share any of your questions. What a year for sure. I was thinking about, we started out this year wondering if we would see normalcy, whatever that means, right? Holding on to that hope. We were glad that we could get all the children and teens on campus that wanted to be here and create options for learning. We could muster over these first 82 days of the school year. So some gleams of positivity. For many of us, we learned that normalcy can take many different forms, things we didn't think we could do, like video chat, group conversations on video, follow-up via Hangouts, chat, texting, calling, etc. Learn what children and teens need over this virtual world. Coaching parents from afar, parents coaching us from afar. We're doing it, and in many situations, we're actually thriving. So I just want to congratulate all of us for the hard work for that. As we took a moment of silence earlier this fall for a lost parent of COVID, I now probably most of us now have personal experiences now with either COVID loss or COVID illness. We build our ongoing resilience to this new way of being, and are so hopeful. Many of us have seen what's happened with the vaccine over the last couple of weeks and currently, and it just gives you a sense of hope that, what we're capable of doing globally, when something comes up, that we can all kind of work together. And so that also makes us hopeful. Dr. Harris was sharing with me that they will start their first shots in Floyd County on Thursday. And so I think it's Thursday, it might be Friday, I think. So that's also, I think, very exciting. Many of you read about the 38-year-old teacher that passed away from a local school last month due to COVID. These types of stories probably stop all of us in our tracks and remind us to accept each day as a gift, something to cherish. And so I'm sure many of those conversations are happening too. I met with my cherished coworkers that have volunteered on the COVID committee since last spring. About 25 of us discussed the current situation and projections and decided, on a plan that feels right as the next steps for CM. We've also had conversations with Dr. Harris, as some of you have been following. Dr. Harris is an alumni parent at CM, as well as the Floyd County Health Commissioner. There was some talk at the last minute of him not staying on as the health commissioner, and so I won't get into all that. But yesterday he was certified back in that position, which gives me a sigh of relief, because keeping something static right now seems super important. And knowing that I text and talk to him multiple times a week, that gives I think our school some footing that I'm glad that we're going to be able to continue into the new year. I also communicate with several school leaders about their plans for the upcoming January and forward. So, we've got lots of details and information that we've put in place. As some of you know, Governor Holcomb has put some new changes in place. They actually made the mask mandate official throughout the state a few weeks ago. Canceled all non-emergency surgeries until at least January 3rd throughout the whole state. Indiana set some records we're probably not proud of. One of them was we had 1,000 deaths in 16 days. And so, again, humbling. We've had new cases reaching over 8,000 in the state. Depending on the day, we've been ranked 2nd or 4th in the country for how many cases we have per 100,000. The number has dipped to 4,000 sometimes, but we also know that the test returns are greatly delayed, and people are having trouble getting tests. So that affects some of that. Last week when I was looking at the numbers with Dr. Harris, our percentage dropped a little bit. My next question was how many tests we have out, and he said over 400. And so that affects what those percentages look like. I'm going to share my screen with you just a minute, just to kind of give you the updated dashboard. Okay, can you see that? What's coming? It's coming. Okay, thank you. So this is the county metrics. So if you've seen this over each one of our calls, almost each month, you notice that it's got a lot more red than it had before. This positivity part is the one that we look at, and you can see these numbers have changed quite a bit. We look at that unique positivity. So there's places 31%. I think Marion County was at 24% in Hendricks, 23.8% in Marion. Floyd County, we're at 21.2%, Harrison 22.9%, and Clark at 24.6%. But we're seeing these numbers like here in Du Bois, 44.7% unique individuals percentage. So these numbers are obviously going up, up, up. So I think it's just something for us to, to look at as we're talking through this. So I think that, after collaborating with the staff committee on Monday, we've come up with what we think could be a potential plan for January. And so let me give you a summary of what we're presenting today. The underlying part of the plan has to do with making sure that any learners on campus that we have keep everyone as healthy and safe as possible. So making sure that if children or staff or teens are coming on campus, that they don't have any symptoms. And if they have symptoms, they stay home, period. And so we've been doing that as a staff. Even a headache, we're just being extra cautious. And I think that's what's kept us open so long this year. Not having to close down besides right before fall break, that was pretty amazing and unprecedented for many other schools and for many of you talking about other programs and such. Also, making sure that if you've been around any exposure to a positive person, I know there's a lot of misinformation, and so you're going to see a lot more reminders about that in our school emails and our studio emails, that, being around a positive case means quarantining for 14 days. And quarantine for 14 days, no matter if you get a negative test or not, if you've been around someone positive for 15 minutes, a 24-hour period, you quarantine for 14 days. The CDC came out with some alternatives, but they are still recommending a 14-day quarantine. Community Montessori will be staying with the 14-day quarantine. So all of those pieces, I have to share those and prioritize that. That's really important. The second part of that communication from the staff is our youngest learners need to be in the building as soon as we can, like doing this over video and internet, and trying to communicate with them, and families trying to support them and also do the things they need to do is the hardest part. And, so we have constantly, even when we started before, we were constantly thinking about how do we support those youngest children. So these are plans. Things could change. We come back on January 4th. We have a staff in-service day. The first school day back for children and teens is January 5th. And so we really want to see what that first week is that comes back. Right now, we're right at that 2 to 3 week mark from the Thanksgiving holiday of, what people are assuming is this influx of cases and deaths. And so when we return on January 4th, we're also going to be at that 2 to 3 week mark from the Christmas holidays. And so, it's also important to know what happens during that time. So right now we're planning that the nursery will reopen on January 11th. That can change, but right now our hope is we'll look at where things are on January 4th. If we need to make an adjustment, we'll communicate that now on the 5th of January. Otherwise, our plan is to open back up the nursery, the infant and toddler program to those families on January 11th. The early education program, also planning on reopening on January 11th. We talked a lot about just FSP children or FSP and hybrid, and we've decided to do both FSP and hybrid to return. So barring that all things, stay the same, that's our intention. The staff is on board with that to try to get those children back in the building on campus the week of January 11th. There'll also be some unique communication just to those families that will go out. But for now, we wanted, since this is everybody in the school, to know that part. For the elementary and teen staff, I think that the one thing that we've been surprised about is the resiliency of these children and families, and they're doing some amazing learning from home. But we want to get you back in the building as soon as possible. We don't think January is the right time. So the elementary and teens will stay off campus from January 5th until February 9th. And then we'll decide the week of February 1st. We'll have another video call and hopefully be able to get the elementary and teens back in the building that on February 10th. So if you remembered, we've talked about moving the PPC date. Right now it's scheduled for February 11th and 12th, which is a Thursday and Friday, because we're trying to, many families have shared, it'd be great if we balance that out for hybrid families. And so we're going to move that February PPC date now to that Monday and Tuesday, February 8th and 9th. So those will be off-campus days for the early ed program. These would be, closed days for the main campus. Nursery stays as their calendar. But so those 2 days will move to February 8th and 9th. And hopefully we'll be able to bring at least the FSP kids, maybe the hybrid kids, back on campus on February 10th for the elementary and teens level. So that parent engagement and collaboration and communication is going to be really key to this time. It's been estimated that January might be the worst month of the whole pandemic. So none of us know what's going to happen, but this is what we feel like we can do. And we want to make sure you stay connected. Please make sure you sign up for the PPCs. Please communicate with your teachers, follow up, try to make sure your kids are on the lessons. Make sure you're signed up for the text messages, because, there'll probably be inclement weather. And as soon as we all get back in the building, or part of us are back in the building. So please make sure that you do that, text yes to 67587. You can do that right now. And you'll make sure to get all the text messages. So I'm going to let Melissa go ahead and open up the chat for questions. I do want to say thank you for so many of you that have reached out and shared and offered help to others. It is very humbling, asking questions to help us do our best. So we appreciate that. We appreciate you. We're going to soon be sharing kind of a movement that we have going on right now for us to share a plan to house a community pantry on our campus to help with food insecurity in Southern Indiana. So stay tuned for that. Some really neat things are happening. So we're excited to share more about that with you soon as well. Okay, questions?
I just want to clarify, because there were some loud things happening in my house just as you were giving some key information. But the part where you were talking about bringing both FSP and hybrid back was just early ed, right?
That's okay. For the month of January, yes.
That's what I thought, but I wanted to just make sure. Thank you.
Yeah, that will start on January 11th, just for early ed and nursery. And then we would make a decision on the week of February 1st about February 10th. And hopefully at that point, we'll be able to bring back either the FSP or the FSP and hybrid learners at the elementary and teen level.
Great, thank you.
Yeah. Melissa, do you have anything over there? Or anybody else? Prina, who's working the chat?
We had a question that I just feel you just answered about elementary and teens, whether they will be coming back just for the FSP learners or hybrid learners in February. So you just answered that, based on what's happening in the community, we'll know better on February 1st.
Exactly.
Yeah. And then the other question was reiterating the information on who's coming back on January 11th, which is also what you just confirmed. Like the early ed is coming back on January 11th for FSP and hybrid learners.
That's right.
We have a question about, is CM keeping up to date with cybersecurity in the Zoom meetings?
Are we keeping up to date with what? I'm sorry?
The cybersecurity element in Zoom meetings.
Well, I know that that is a moving target. Most of our studios are using Google Meet, but I'm anxious. If you've got any specific information, feel free to email that to me personally, and we'll look into whatever we may not know about that you might know about. Thank you for asking.
We don't have any other questions just yet.
Okay. I can start dancing while you're thinking about it. No, I'm just kidding. Feel free if you've got something we want to hear from you. We appreciate you asking things that help us to go like, oh, we didn't think about that, or it's a good question. So, please.
We had a couple more pop up, Barbara. Any news on Floyd or Clark County school schedules for January?
Don't know what's public yet, so I'm going to kind of hesitate to share. So I'm going to leave it at that. I know that Floyd's is not public yet, but it will be, I think, on Friday. And but I do know kind of what their either potential plans are or plans are. So but I'm not sure if Clark's is public yet, so I'll keep that to myself.
Okay. Have you heard when teachers will be able to get vaccinations?
Yeah, it's a good question too. I know Jefferson County has talked about that a lot more than I've heard from Indiana. Most of what I've heard from Indiana is it looks like probably March-ish. I know that we've submitted some surveys to the Indiana State Department of Health about if we can do our own vaccinations here, which we have said that we can. And so in January, we'll be pulling our staff to see how many we need vaccinations for. And so we had to give information about, like, do we have a refrigerator that can go to around 40 degrees and that kind of information. So that's exciting to think about, that that level. I mean, I know they know that's a little bit further down the line, but it is still really exciting about it.
Okay. There's one that some learners are struggling with engagement on their calls. Is there any parental advice on how to help them engage? By the end of the week, it gets tough, and then another parent agreeing that it gets harder as the week goes on.
Okay. Yeah, I think your first component is to make sure that you have that dialogue with the teacher. And, like I've been on what's called family meetings. We've done some really neat collaborative, we call them a family meeting, where the teacher and sometimes myself or another staff member joins the family and just brainstorms about what are the areas of need for a specific young person. And then we come up with some school goals and some home goals. And then we get back together again in a few weeks and see how that's going. That's been really, really successful. And teachers can help you to put a process like that in place. So those would be some of the things. And just demystifying, sometimes I think we don't tell our own children and teens, like, the process we're going through. None of us were doing this, a year ago, and now we're doing it. And so, just kind of having that, one-on-one time and talking to them about, like, this is hard for me too. This is what I do. I keep notepads beside me, and when things pop in my head, I write them down, or, I try to put comments in to stay alert to what the topic is. So giving them some of your strategies that you might use that are also going through this might be some options as well.
We have a question about if there'll be a refund for extended learning for the month of January, and then also another one in general about fees. If the date is pushed back further than January 11th, what will the fee structure look like, and have we considered setting a standard policy moving forward in regards to adjusting or removing payments for days that services are not rendered? And I think that one's broader, not just about extended.
Yeah. So there'll be some specified emails going out about, we've looked at, bless Melissa and Kelly's heart, Melissa Cole and Kelly's heart. We've been working on dissecting the budget for about a month now about, what space we do have. Of course, our goal is to make sure Community Montessori stays sustainable. and that we don't lose things like our infant toddler program or our before and after school program. Like many of you know, like our staff, many of them, I think we have 15 that support the extended learning program, and that is money they use for their life. And so, we've been really hesitant to make any adjustments in that, because then that money has to come from somewhere else for the school's budget. So we do have some plans for some components of that, and those will be emailed out separately this week.
Okay, that's it for right now, unless we get some comments on that or new questions.
Nicole's got her hand raised.
You can unmute Nicole or type. Wonder if it was just a bump.
Sorry, I came in late. I was caught up. So can you give me a really quick rehash? I'm so sorry.
So, basically, as far as who's open and closed, that on January 11th, the nursery and the early childhood program will open. And so early childhood for FSP and hybrid learners. The elementary and teens will stay off campus. And on the week of February 1st, we'll have another video call and see where things are, with the hope that we'll bring the elementary teens back in the building on February 10th.
Also, can remind you, this is being taped. She can actually hear this at a later date as well.
Yeah, thanks. All the other details.
I'm not seeing anything new coming in. Oh, just had one. Is Montessori having discussions mandating the vaccine for learners or teachers?
There are not any formal communication about that going on right now. I mean, I guess my feeling on that is I think our whole nation is still trying to get comfortable, with their own research and with learning about the vaccines and so forth. My intention right now, and I'm putting this out here, I wasn't going to say it, but I'm going to say it anyway, in February, is to have some kind of small town hall conversations with the different levels of the building, like the nursery and early ed and the elementary program and the teens program, to have people come in and say a couple of things. One is to talk about, like, what do we, how do we move forward, not knowing like what the vaccine, how long it's going to last, et cetera. What things do we, prioritize as a community about that, as well as what have we learned from this year and last spring that we want to try to hold on to. We know that we've had specifically teens and older elementary learners that have thrived under this distance, off-campus instruction period, and we have some definitely had some that have not. And but what are some things as a school community that we want to see about, leaning into, keeping? So I know the staff has been having some conversations about that, but I really want to hear from families about that. So, hopefully towards the end of January, we're going to have a couple of these kinds of conversations, level specific, so we can gain more of your knowledge. So keep thinking about that, and look forward to hearing more about that then. Anything else? I know it could be intimidating to ask or talk, on this call. The phone isn't ringing much these days, but we are still here. We are here every single day. All of the Cupola staff has been here all year, and we have about half the staff in the building. So we're here. Feel free to reach out either by phone or by email, or we're all hangouts now. We're doing all the things. So if you want to talk through some of what we said today, or just anything specific about your own child, please don't hesitate to reach out to us. So you're our first priority. So.
Okay.
All right, we'll stay on for a few minutes and we'll let people exit out. And so if you have anything in a few minutes, we'll stay on with you. Thanks so much. Have a great day. Thanks a lot. Thanks a lot. Appreciate it. Bye, guys. Thank you. Good to see you. Thanks, guys. Anybody have anything else?
I bet these might be people who had it up while they were doing other things.
Yeah.
All right.
All right. Thanks, you guys. Appreciate it.
Apparently it wasn't her.